Hey everybody, this is Penny Sticks and welcome to Dredge. What I've decided to do for this game is, since there are about 5 sections on the map that you're going to need to explore, I figured I'd separate those sections into videos and focus on the pursuits that you need to do for each area, maybe some of the trophies, and certainly any collectibles. And this game sure has a bunch of little MacGuffins and collectibles to find and to use. But I want to basically make each of these 5 videos here showing you what you kind of need to get done in the game in the various sections. And each section has a bunch of quests, and they call the quests pursuits. The first pursuit here is a series of tasks that you're given to go out and find, to fish. Throughout the game, you'll be told to find specific kind of fish or mollusks or jellyfish and a couple other sea creatures. I might refer to them as fauna every now and again, because it's not all just fish. But many times you'll be tasked with finding specific fish or fauna, and to give them to NPCs, or to put them into little stone shrines or what have you. So I just wanted to show you some of those things. And what we're starting out with here is actually something I didn't do on my first playthrough. This is something that I captured after I finished the game the first time, because I discovered the further in that you go, the harder it is to do this. So this is a trophy called Perfect Packing. And I'm actually pulling the trophy up here to make sure I get that. Yep, Perfect Packing is what it's called. Have a full cargo. So basically what that trophy requires is that you catch enough fish that you fill every single empty slot in your cargo hold. And it's kind of hard to do, because not every fish is a straight 2-block thing, and even if you do fill it up 2 blocks, there's always going to be like an extra little space. So I found out that 2 cod or 3 cod and the blue mackerels, and then if you run out of blue mackerels, the squid, arrow squid, that is in this little area between Greater Marrow and Little Marrow, that 2 or 3 cod, and then the rest of the spaces filled with the 2 space blue mackerel or the arrow squid will fill everything up perfectly for you. So I'm going to show you what I did initially, which this trophy that you're going to see was actually the last trophy I needed, and it's going to get me the platinum, but you're not going to see that in this video here. So we need 1 more cod for the way that I did it the first time, and then I'm going to show you quickly a second configuration that I was able to do the second time I did a full playthrough of the game. So there's Perfect Packing there. So I suggest you do this as early as possible in the game. The later in the game that you go, and here's my second configuration with just 2 cod. The later in the game you go, the more cargo spaces you're going to have, the more equipment you're going to have, And then you're going to start dredging for treasures and materials, and you're going to have relics and all sorts of other things in your cargo hold. And it's specifically filling every space you can with fish, not with anything else. So I suggest you do that as soon as you can to get that out of the way, because I really struggled to get it at the end of the game. So we are back to day 1 and fulfilling the pursuits. We're meeting the the fishmonger. And I believe once we turn in our first set of fish, then we're going to make enough money that the mayor is going to introduce us to the shipwright, and that's going to give us the introductions trophy. Here we're getting our first research part, and research parts are a very valuable commodity in the game. You need research parts to unlock other equipment, and here we're meeting the shipwright, so we get introductions. But I discovered that there are a number of research parts you're going to get for completing pursuits, and in the middle of turning things in for pursuits, you're going to get like maybe 2 research parts for every exotic fish that you discover, things like that. And you're going to get a bunch of them. You're going to find a bunch in shipwrecks and at campfires and other places around the map. And you can also buy some from the traveling merchant, who is the other kind of shipwright and fishmonger that you're going to find in the other 4 areas. But I found that throughout all of my exploring and completing all the pursuits, that I still needed about 20 to 25 research parts to fully research every piece of equipment. And so what I had to do at the end was I basically had to go to one of the 4 corner islands and areas where the traveling merchant was, and go to her shop, see if she had a research part, buy it if she had one, and they usually cost about $300. I want to say it's like $333 every time. Maybe it's more, maybe it's less, maybe then the price varies, but I didn't really notice. But you're going to have to buy like 20 to 25 research parts, and you're going to have to keep grinding out and going back and forth to each of the traveling merchants. You're going to have to save, exit out of the game, load it up again, and hope that maybe now it's for sale, and just keep trying for that. And eventually you're going to have to accrue enough research parts, and then you're going to get to a point where I suggest you hold on to a bunch of them, maybe the last 10, 15 of them, and that you research fully one of those tabs that we just saw, and then you exit out of the game and then go back in and research another tab completely so that you can get all those trophies. But me being a completionist, I didn't like that idea. I really wanted enough research parts so I could have everything fully upgraded and everything fully unlocked. And I was never able to do that. So that's one complaint I have about the game with the research parts. They don't give you enough. And to try to change the game around and save and exit and do all this weird grinding to try to get all those parts, it just seemed like maybe, I don't know, maybe that's not what they intended with the research parts. Maybe there are another 20 out in the middle of the ocean on the corners or the edges of the map. I don't know. I haven't been able to find any more, and I've looked everywhere. So if you know of some hidden research parts that aren't in any area on the map, please let me know in the comments. because I really would like to figure that out. So anyway, I've been babbling on while we've been seeing a couple things here, and we just met the lighthouse keeper, who is kind of a very important figure in the story. And there is quite a story here, even though it seems like you're just fishing. The mayor just gave us a package. It's another pursuit, and we are going to deliver that to Little Marrow. And if you notice, we've been paying off our little ship loan little by little here with the fish that we've been catching. So we're going to head over to Little Marrow and meet a few more NPCs and complete another pursuit. Of course, while I was gabbing away earlier, we did unlock the shallow rod that we're using right now. So you're going to need to unlock, I want to say probably 5 different kinds of rods. There's like 5 or 6 different varieties of fish that you can catch. This is the dock worker here. We're going to give him this package. We're going to have to do this a second time later in the game. But that's pretty much the only correspondence we're going to have with him. But there's also the trader, and the trader is a fantastic NPC to utilize. Once we get the ability to dredge for treasures, the trader is going to be able to pay us for any jewelry or golden chalices or fine plates or anything else that we find. And there's actually there's a pursuit towards the very end of the game that we'll be able to utilize the trader for in the final area. So the way the map's made up, we are right in the middle of the map. I don't know if I've pulled the map up yet on the video here, but there are 4 corners. On the southeastern corner is the Gale Cliffs. On the southwestern corner there is the Stellar Basin, and the northwestern corner there's the Twisted Shard, which is a bunch of murky swamps, like a little swampy area. And then the northeastern corner is Devil's Spine, which is a volcanic region, very hot waters and steam and all these kind of cool looking things. You can go to any of these 4 areas whenever you want, but I suggest that you go, basically you start at the southeastern corner of Gale Cliffs, and you work your way clockwise when you're going for the MacGuffins of the game, and that is the 5 relics, and we're going to learn about those relics very soon. We just caught some eel and some I think it was flounder. I believe this is this the first or second of the fishmonger's kind of tasks that he gives us for this tutorial pursuit here. Maybe that was the first one, but he's going to send us out a couple times, and one of the times he's going to send us out, it's to catch things that are only available at night And that is the game's way of kind of ushering you into introducing aberrations, which are basically malformed, freakish versions of the fish. And pretty much every fish has at least one aberration. There's 2 or 3 that don't have any, and there's a couple in the beginning that have like 3 or 4 aberrations. And usually it's easier to find these kinds of freaks of nature at night. So we just opened up the dry dock. The dry dock is really only available in the Marrows, and then the traveling merchant in the 4 corners. When you see the traveling merchant, it's a floating dock. But basically, this is where you can put materials to upgrade the spaces in your cargo hold, and eventually you can upgrade your hull. There are 3 trophies for upgrading the hulls. There's 3 upgrades you can do to the hull. It just makes it bigger. It moves things around. It gives you more space to fill with fish and treasures and relics, and also with a lot of equipment. So as I was mentioning before, you're going to need 5 or 6 different varieties of rods. We just kind of flashed them on there on the screen there. There's coastal, shallow, oceanic. Those are the first 3 that you can unlock. I mean, you start with coastal. You can buy shallow, and you're going to need to in order to complete these tutorial pursuits. And then oceanic, which is catching very large fish, kind of sharks, and I mean, it's mostly just sharks with the oceanic. And then I can't remember the next ones, but there's mangrove and volcanic. Those are 2 area-specific rods. And then there's abyssal and hadal, and those are both in regards to catching things that are in low depth areas like Stellar Basin, but also sometimes in other areas. Mangrove is the swamp, volcanic is Devil's Spine. There's also the ability to change adapt 4 of your rod spaces so that you can have a trawl net, and you will need to buy a net at some point because there's about 3 or 4 fish or other underwater fauna that you're going to need to catch for various pursuits and for your encyclopedia. So there's an encyclopedia that you can pull up by hitting up on the D-pad. Wait, no, that's the map. I'm sorry. I don't remember which one it is. I think it's left or right on the D-pad. But there's an encyclopedia of 128 fish. 67 of them are fish, and the other 61 are the aberrations of those fish. So right now we don't have the ability to dredge. We're going to be getting that very soon. Well, not very soon. I shouldn't say very soon. We don't even know about aberrations yet here in this video. So some of this is probably going to take a little longer. You know, it is kind of funny watching this with all the upgrades that you can do with the research parts and with the materials that you'll be able to use eventually. Watching the boat move so slow, it's kind of a hassle. But once we move on to the basic format of the game, and that is dredging and finding relics for another character here, then you'll see you're gonna get really useful abilities the first ability you're going to get is called Haste, and that basically gives you a turbo or an overclock for your engine that allows you to kind of boost your way through the water. But we'll talk about that in a little bit. So we're going to let this pursuit play out. Just going to do a little bit more fishing here. Enjoy the calm, early game kind of tutorial. Kind of ropes you in and kind of makes you feel like, oh, this is nice and calm. That's all we're going to do. We're just going to fish. But we are going to enter nighttime, and nighttime is a whole different bag of bones. a whole different group of apples there. Once it hits 6 p.m. or 1800 hours, things start to appear. Things get darker, foggy, and sometimes rocks will appear out of nowhere in the water that you didn't expect to find. Here is a what is that called? A black grouper. We need that for a pursuit. We also need 2 arrow squid. I'm assuming that's what I'm going for now. I assume that's the pursuit I'm working on. So that is the wheel of abilities. In the beginning, you can turn on and off your light. You can use your foghorn, and you can also use your telescope. And the telescope will basically give you a POV through the telescope, and you can span around in 360 degrees, and it will identify anything that you see there. That is Sustainable Fishing. That's the first book that we got and read. I don't remember which one of the NPCs gave us the book, whether it was I think it was the shipwright. So the books are really great, and by the way, that was our first aberration that we found there. The books are really useful. Basically, when you get a book, you go into your menu and make sure that you select the book so that you can be kind of reading it while you're driving around in your boat. I want to point that out. Something slithers into your cargo hold. That is something that happens at night, and that's basically an infection that hits one of your fish. If you see up, the blue mackerel at the top right there is kind of bubbling with black bubbles. That's infection. So it's okay if you're going to sell that fish. It's just going to you're going to get less money for it. But if you don't sell it and it stays in your cargo, it's going to infect other fish, and you're just going to have a really bad time. But we finished the pursuit there, but we also accomplished the goal that the game wanted us to accomplish, and that is we found an aberration. So for completing that part of the pursuit, we get a crab pot. We unlock that ability, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later. But the important thing is, because we found the aberration, we're going to give it to the fishmonger. And he's going to open it up, and he's going to find a delicately patterned handkerchief. He's also going to tell us the more aberrations we find, the more that he'll pay us for those kind of freaks of nature. But now that we have the handkerchief, it actually is going to introduce us to another NPC. He's going to invite us to the Blackstone Isle. Okay, so now that we've found the first aberration, we've unlocked crab pots, and we have a strange handkerchief that has introduced us to a new character. So let's go back and talk about 2 things that I was just mentioning: the books and then the crab pot. So the books if you finish reading a book, some of them will give you kind of 10 to 15% little buffs on various things. Fishing speed. You can haggle and get better prices when you're selling fish or buying things or selling to the trader. And there's also a lot of help that the books can give you with the panic system. So at night, you're going to start seeing things, and if you're out too late, you're going to see an eye appear right above below the time at the top of the screen there. You see the little anchor. Well, at night, when you are up too late, or you see things, or you use some of the items we're going to get later on, it's going to increase your panic. And that panic is going to basically work like some other video game things work, that the more you use the kind of dark magic items, the more dark things you're going to see, basically. But that panic can be alleviated a little bit through some of the books that we could get. So the books mostly are going to be rewards for completing pursuits. And sometimes the NPCs randomly give you books. All of the people that you're going to do a lot of your business with, the traveling merchant, the shipwright, the fishmonger, the trader, and a bunch of other people that you're going to find. Some people who are stranded places or want you to bring them from one place to another will give you books. Some of the NPCs we're going to have to assist to get some of the relics later are going to give us books. But here we're at the Blackstone Isle, and we've met someone who calls himself the Collector. And here we are given the basic plot of the game, and the overall quest of the entire storyline is to find these 5 relics. We need to find a key, a music box, a pocket watch, a ring, and one other thing. I can't remember. I do want to mention the 2 things right here in that workshop that we just pulled out. Those are actually items from the DLC, the Blackstone Isle DLC. When I bought the game, it was like an additional $1, I think, to get the Blackstone Isle DLC. I wasn't sure what it was. I was like, sure, I'll buy it. So those 2 items are the first 2 kind of Eldritch pieces of equipment that you can use if you buy the DLC, and it basically just gives you a tiny little bit of help in fishing speed, and it makes your engine a little faster. But in the end, it wasn't really necessary to get either of those things, but I figured why not try them out. Okay, these black stones here, it's kind of a story element, and they only really work if you have high panic. So you're going to get the same message that the cold stones don't react to your touch or whatever every single time you do it, unless you were like in heavy panic mode. So the collector gave us the ability to dredge, and this is what dredging looks like. It's a lot like fishing. It's a little mini game that comes up. You just have to go back and forth between two rings, try to avoid the gaps. So we are going to look around, we're going to ask about shipwrecks, and we are going to try to find the first of 5 relics. So there's the key. Let me count this out here, because I know I missed something. The key, the music box, the ring, the pocket watch, and what's the other one? I can't remember. I know we just said it. Ah, yes, the necklace. I had to stop recording and actually look it up. So, as there are 5 regions, the center region here, the Greater Marrow and Little Marrow, and there are the 4 corner areas: Gale Cliffs, Stellar Basin, Twisted Shard, and Devil's Spine. Obviously, there's 1 relic in each of the 5 areas. And basically, you're going to have to carry out a few pursuits in every one of the areas in order to get your hands on the relic. Basic final destination is collecting all the relics, giving them back to the collector. Every single time you return to the collector with a new relic, he's going to give you a new ability, and some of these abilities are really fantastic. The first one you get is called Haste, as I mentioned before, which lets you boost your boat through the water, but if you do it for too long, you'll blow your engine out. The second ability is called Manifest, which basically lets you fast travel straight back to Blackstone Isle. And we'll talk about a few of the other ones later. But since we're looking at the crab pot, I do want to mention the crab pots. So you can upgrade the crab pots. You can get different ones that last longer, that have more space in them. But basically, they all do the same thing. You throw the crab pot in the water, and it'll stop collecting crabs after it fills up and after its amount of days is over, before it needs to be repaired. But everything that you catch in the crab pot will stay fresh for as long as you have it in the water. So it's kind of a set it and forget it thing. They are great. If you put 3 or 4 crab pots out in various areas, you can return to those crab pots, collect the fish, and sell them. You can collect the crab pots, repair them, put them back out again. It's a really nice way to kind of make some money without putting in a lot of work. You just put them out there, and then you return to them whenever you can, in between pursuits or whatever else you're doing. The trawl net works basically the same way. It gets hooked up to 4 of your rod spaces on the left there. The 4 spaces that we have in use on the left, with the rod and that little talisman there, those can be turned into 4 spaces that can be interchangeably used as the net or rods. And when you put the net on your boat, you can release the net and it'll go into the water, and then anything you catch in that net will stay fresh until you pull it out and sell it. So this is the builder, and she is in Greater Marrow. And now that you have the ability to dredge and gather materials, she's going to ask your help to gather 2 lumber, and I think it was 2 scraps of metal. There's 4 materials. Oh, here is the lighthouse keeper. There's 4 materials you can dredge: lumber, metal scraps and cloth, and then there's a fourth one that is very rare, refined metal, and that there's enough that you can find in the map that you'll never have to spend the $500 for each piece of refined metal. They're only used to upgrade your hull, and you only need I think 6 of them altogether. So I would suggest don't spend your $500 on refined metal. It's just not worth it, because there's enough places you can find it without spending any money, or at least not a lot of money. So here we found the 2 sets of scraps and the 2 lumber. We did talk to the lighthouse keeper while I was gabbing away there, and she dropped some kind of story notes and some hints. I always kind of, in these videos, you'll see me stop and talk to the lighthouse keeper anytime I find a relic or have some kind of bit more of the story to learn, and we'll talk with her throughout the story. And there's 2 endings to this game, and one of them will involve her in a small way. So it's just always good to maybe look her up every time you're in the area and chat her up. Also found one of our first treasures, so we'll give that to the trader. But here we are with the builder. We told the builder that her little house is ready to go, and we are going to transport her. So this is how this works. You'll do this a couple times throughout the game for various pursuits, where you'll stick the person in your cargo. So you're going to need 6 spaces in order to transport her. A little bit later in the video, we're going to look at a pursuit that involves a castaway. And if you do not have the space required in your cargo to transport him back to Little Marrow, there's a possibility that if you leave him behind, he probably dies. Yeah. So that's going to give us the opportunity to talk about something else in this game, about the pursuits. I just dropped my crab pot there again after I had it fixed up, and we are bringing the builder to Steel Point, which is right in this direction here, using our telescope to look around at the various fish and other fauna. So we're going to just swing around this island here and drop her off. And then right outside of her area, I believe we're going to look at it right after we drop her off, there is a really cool area here. So the kind of inlet here in between these rocks, this kind of area in between the 2 or 3 rocks there and the cliff, there is, and on the other side of the rocks too, we get 2 more research parts. That's very useful. There are 3 spots where you can dredge, and they have, one is for 2 cloth, another is for 2 lumber, and one kind of, we can't see it right now, but it's a little past the cliff there, is the 4 scraps of metal. I did speed this up quite a bit, so I apologize if it's a little jarring, but what I wanted to do is show you this. So this spot, and as far as I know, this is the only spot in the game you can dredge these 3 spots of their materials, and you're going to get, like I said, 2 cloth, 2 lumber, and 4 metal scraps. And then if you dock here where the builder lives and save and quit your game and reload, you will be able to dredge from those spots again. It's a very useful way to get any materials that you need for your upgrades. The only thing that's not in this area is refined metal. But again, as I said, there are about, I want to say, 8 to 10 pieces of refined metal that you can get your hands on through pursuits and through using explosives that you'll get in Gale Cliffs, or at least get access to. So there's really no need to ever buy refined metal. And if you're really hard up for getting that last piece of material for an upgrade, just come over here to Steel Point and just grind it out. So if you noticed, that was much later in the game. I actually played through this game twice, and that was capture from the end of my second playthrough there. So I had a lot of other things in my cargo, and I had explosives and bait and all sorts of cool stuff in my storage. But those are all things you'll unlock throughout the game. We're going to head over to the Castaway here. I think we're going to stop by this shipwreck first and investigate. So anytime you see sparkles in the water at the edge of an island, anytime you see shipwrecks or campfires or any docks that you find that seem like they're abandoned, any buildings, you can go into and search, and sometimes you'll get treasures, sometimes you'll get research parts. There's a bunch of other things you're going to need to find for various NPCs. But here we have SOS, a sparkly thing here to look, and we found a castaway. So this castaway seems like he's been expecting his friends to come find him. And we have to tell him, unfortunately, no one's looking for you. So he asks to come with us. And we have the room. We planned for it. You're going to see every pursuit accomplished properly here. But this is the first of many that you can probably fail at. But the good news is, with pursuits, there is no failure in this game. If someone you are transporting dies, and there are 4 hooded figures in the game that will ask you to catch them fish so they can eat the fish, if you don't bring them the fish in time, they will starve to death and they will die. There's other items that you need to find for various pursuits. If you find them, put them in your cargo, and you get damage to your cargo and lose those pieces, that will also be okay. Every pursuit will be resolved regardless of death or loss. The game will always resolve pursuits even if you can't get the happiest of endings for them. As I mentioned, if you didn't have room in your cargo for this castaway and we would have just left him there, I imagine he probably would have died. I have not looked into that yet, but I haven't tried to fail that one. But I really wanted to err on the side of accomplishing all the pursuits, though you're supposed to. So here we are in Little Marrow, and we're talking with the trader. We're selling him some of the trinkets that we found. But if you notice, when we docked, there was an NPC called Grieving Father, if you see the exclamation point right there. So this is one that I definitely missed on my first playthrough on my secondary account, when I was just kind of feeling out the game and trying to figure out how I wanted to approach it. So you will have the opportunity to explore the Marrows, and you might end up finding this bronze belt buckle. If you find the belt buckle before talking to the Grieving Father, Or if you find the belt buckle even after you talk to the grieving father and go to the trader and sell it, the trader will buy it off of you. The game's not going to say, hey, are you sure you don't want to sell that? You will be allowed to sell that to the trader. If you give it to the grieving father as you're supposed to, he will reward you. I think it's research part. It's either research part or a book. I can't remember. Here I am thinking about. Yep, I unlock the oceanic rod. And if you do not, if you sell the belt buckle to the trader and then talk to the grieving father and tell the grieving father will run off and supposedly he'll get the belt buckle from the trader. Maybe he buys it from her. I don't know, but you won't get the reward, but the pursuit will be resolved. So that's two examples of how pursuits work, whether it's a happy ending or a sad ending. Either way, it's still resolved. Now if you see that colored glow in the water there, that is a fishing spot that there's a higher possibility you can get an aberration, and we did right away. I have read various people talking about aberrations in this game. If you, as I just did there, if you mess up the fishing minigame, there's a lot less chance that you're going to be able to get an aberration. But there is an ability that you get much later in the game. It's the last ability that the collector gives you, and it's called atrophy. And basically what atrophy does is the closest fishing spot, when you use atrophy, it will collect all the fish in that fishing spot, and you are guaranteed to get at least one aberration of that species of fish. So as you're working on finding all, I think I said 67 varieties of fish and the 61 aberrations. If you are looking for, that last fish or whatever, there's definitely ways that you can accomplish that. So this is another, I believe this is the final pursuit. Did we get a thing that said that we were resolved? I'm pretty sure this was the last thing we had to do for this pursuit. The fishmonger decided he wanted to see what happens when you take an aberrated fish and you eat it. And this is going to lock us out of being able to sell fish for about 24 hours. Probably should have warned you before that. Oh well. But that's fine. You can just sleep for 24 hours. You have no needs that you need to meet personally. You don't need to eat. You don't need to, use resources of any kind daily. You can sleep for weeks and weeks, and there's no penalty for sleeping at a dock for as many days as you want. But there is penalties for trying to work through the night. And here we have an old iron chain. I thought that was the belt buckle. And this one has a color to it. It's a little sparkly here. And notice the dredging is a lot faster. There is the bronze belt buckle. So we want to make sure that that gets back to the grieving father and not sell it to the trader outright. And again, even if you do, it's not going to affect any trophies. It's just going to give you one less reward. And he gives you one research part. Again, very, very important commodity. The more research parts you earn throughout the game, the less you're going to have to grind out towards the end if you want 100% of the platinum, of the trophies for the platinum. Trader's going to give us a book. We're going to go into our cabin, go to the right down here we have our list of books. You can only read one book at a time. So the first one gave us 10% chance to not reduce fish stock when catching a fish with a rod. It doesn't tell you the exact benefit until you finish the book. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Those are actually all the pursuits in the Marrows, except for finding the relic, which we haven't done. So we're going to check our crab pot. Then we're going to do a little bit more fishing, and then we are going to work towards finding the key relic. So I'm trying to include any of the shipwrecks or little treasure spots in hopes that I can just kind of make it easier for you to find what you need to find. So that second book made our engine a little faster. I don't know the percentage there, and we picked the relaxed mind, so that's going to help us with panic. There is, I think we're going to pass it. I probably don't pan the camera over, but in one of these, in between one of these islands in Greater Marrow, there is some refined metal that is blocked by rocks. Ooh, here you see the red sparkles. That is the relic. You're only going to see that red sparkle 5 times in this game. Actually, no, you're only going to see it, I'm going to say twice. There's really only 2 to 3 times that you actually dredge the relic. Here in Stellar Basin. Yeah, that's it. No. Gale Cliffs as well. That's true. So 3 of the 5 we're going to pull out of the water, and the other 2 we're going to get from NPCs for catching various fish and doing various things for them. So we have our first relic, and we're going back to Blackstone Isle. Going to turn it into the collector, move the story along, and get our first true ability, haste, which makes the game a whole lot better and makes you move a little faster, but you got to be careful with it. It increases your panic every time you use it, and if you use it too much, it will blow your engine. There we go. Otherworldly speed at a price. So the collector tells us to go southeast to Gale Cliffs. I suggest you do the same. He will award you an ability with each of the relics that you turn in. And you can have various, you can ask him various questions here. There is one area in Stellar Basin. There is a giant creature at the bottom of the depths, and if you go to that area fourth instead of third, you will already have an ability called Banish, which will let you capture the relic in a lot less time, but you won't have completed the pursuits and you won't have gotten certain abilities and certain things. But we will talk when we get to that point about that in another video. I just want to mention that you know, if you're looking for speed running or doing anything like that, if you want to get to the end of the game without doing the pursuits, then I would suggest doing Greater Marrow, Gale Cliffs, and then Twisted Shard, and then coming back to Stellar Basin when you have Banish. And then once you have 4 of the 5 relics, you can actually go for the good ending without getting the 5th relic. Again, why would you do that? I don't know. But it's I've been watching a lot of speed runs of this game, and that is kind of an interesting trick that they do. One more shipwreck that we're gonna pull from. And then I believe I'm going to show you the trophy that pertains to using haste and keeping it above 50% on the meter for 10 seconds. We're going to look at that in a minute. But yeah, I personally don't suggest that you see, we lost the research part. I would have totally, if I didn't realize it was a research part, I would have totally canceled out. And I should have canceled out because this is the hooded figure. And I wanted to show you this. This I'm going to include in the next video. The problem with the hooded figures are they ask you to collect them 3 fish. And you have about 3 days to feed them those 3 fish, or they will die. Again, the pursuit will be resolved. You will not lose any progress on any trophies, but I hate to not complete everything 100%. And with this one, he wanted a blue mackerel, which was really easy, and then he wanted a tiger mackerel. Can't remember exactly what it was called, but the second one, fairly easy to find. It's in the area. But then the third fish that he wanted, it was nowhere to be found. And the only place I could find it was in the Devil's Spine area. It's called a snake mackerel. There I just got cruel heat because I had the haste up over 50% without blowing the engine for 10 seconds. And we're hitting a piece of wood, a piece of rock there, and we lost a metal scrap. Yeah, damaging your boat, it stinks. And if I were to quit right there, it would reload me from the last time I was at a dock, and I'd have to do everything that I did over again, but I wouldn't have lost the items that I lost. So keep that in mind. So that was the Marrows. I think I wrapped up everything I was talking about. Otherwise, we'll see you on the next one, and we'll wrap those things up. Talking to the Lighthouse Keeper one more time, and wrapping up our time in Greater Marrow and the pursuits we needed to do. Hope that helped. Take care.